Hi, Teresa.
Hi, Rachel.
How are you today?
Doing well, thank you. And you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good.
And to everyone in YouTube world, Teresa has graciously accepted my offer to have me interview her for homeschooling. And so this is my first interview of this series, and Teresa and I have been friends for the past almost 4 years, I think. We used to live where she lives, but we moved, and we're still friends and hang out and whether the phone or in person. And so I have some questions about her today at homeschooling. So if any of you are thinking about homeschooling, or whether it's full-time next year, or if you're homeschooling now, I hope this is an encouragement to you, and hearing other homeschoolers' perspectives. I have a kindergartner, and so we've been doing homeschooling with that, but hearing from other more experienced moms than myself will help even myself. So jumping right into it, Teresa, tell me about yourself.
Well, my name is Teresa. I'm in my upper 30s. I was homeschooled myself from second grade through high school, and now I have a second grader. I grew up in Minnesota and love the outdoors and nature, and also enjoy town living. So just a Christian and thankful to know God and love His Word and have His work in my life.
Thank you so much. So you were homeschooled from second grade on up?
Yep, my parents began homeschooling me the second half of my second grade year, and I wasn't a huge fan of the thought at the time, but really grew to like it and wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
That's great.
Yeah,
I was homeschooled just first grade, and then the rest in public school besides for 8th grade on homeschooled. So I understand with switching from public school to homeschooling can be kind of like what, or homeschool to public school. But it was a good transition for me also. But I'm glad you grew to like it. That's good.
Okay. Very much. So very thankful for their sacrifice and investment in me with that.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your family.
Well, my husband is here. His name is Micah. We've been married 10 years this October.
Hello.
Hello, Micah. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we have 3 children, Caleb, Sarah, and Mary. And Caleb is 8, Sarah is 5, and Mary is 3. Micah works for a manufacturing company in town. And honey, what do you think of homeschooling?
I grew up going to public school.
Okay.
And I remember as a kid, my mom taught me the Bible, and going to public school, I was a little confused because I was confronted with beliefs that were really contrary to what my mom was teaching me at home, what I was learning at church, and I was quite confused for a while and just kind of sorting out what I would believe, and I don't want my kids to have the same struggle, so that's part of the reason that I like it that we're homeschooling. I don't get involved too much in it. I would like to. I would like to help as I can. I guess I try to be supportive of it. I try to support Teresa with things that she needs. I want her to have enough space and time to do what she needs. I also know that homeschooling is not free schooling. There's money to be spent depending on how you do it, and we as dads need to be ready to bring out the checkbook when it's time, and we need to support our wives in that way with the materials they need for our family. And I look at it as an essential expense because it's really our kids' education. It's really important, and I try to make it a priority.
Well, that's all really good stuff. What would you say to someone who's thinking about homeschooling maybe next year, but they're on the fence.
I would encourage them to think about how meaningful it is to educate your own children, and really the value of that, aside from, you could send them to public school for free, and you could have another income or something, or you could do whatever you want in life, but you're trusted with these little souls, and God's given them to you to be responsible for and to raise them up for Him, for His glory. And it's just a really special thing to be able to educate your own kids, and it's a lot of work. It's not going to be easy or free or free of problems occasionally, but it's going to be rewarding in the end. I think the finished product that you're going to see is going to be worth the investment that you put into it by far.
I agree. Do you think with I know a lot of parents are probably home right now, homeschooling, their kids by force, if you want to say, the certain aspects of, those that are in public school, those kids are being now at home, and it's probably a lot different. So having both parents home at the same time, how has that looked with homeschooling and keeping things going still with having a parent home, the second parent home?
I think it can work out fine. I think if, especially if one parent is trying to do their job from home, there may need to be some adjustments given to that, but I think it can work pretty good. I enjoy occasionally working from home, and they give me enough space to do what I need to do, and I can pop in occasionally and resolve a discipline issue or help with a math problem as I need to. So it's nice if a person does have the flexibility to do that. That's nice. Another thing I would encourage people with is to not be overwhelmed by homeschooling. It can be an overwhelming thing, and you can feel like you need to have all this scholastic achievement, and they need to be little Isaac Newtons by the time they're 8 years old, but you don't have to be. The way I look at it with our kids, as long as they are learning how to learn, that's enough for me. As long as they can learn how to get something out of a short story, get a topic, understand something, as long as they can understand basic math, as long as they can start to form words and sentences and writing things, that's fine with me. I don't care that they can pass a rigorous test at this point. I think they can catch sort of a passion for learning, and if they can learn how to approach problems in life by being willing to do some research and being willing to apply themselves to studying something, then they can be successful in whatever God wants them to do in their life. They can be a doctor, or they can be a machinist, or they can be a business owner, or they can learn to apply themselves to something. And I think that's probably more valuable than just getting an A on a test.
Just for our audience's sake, what degrees do you guys have? Degrees, and what are they in, if you do?
I have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering.
Yeah, and I have a bachelor's in nursing.
So just for both very qualified individuals to not only homeschool, but have so you both have really made homeschooling really your life, with you staying home, Teresa, and you supporting your family that way. I think that's really awesome. Does you have to have a bachelor's degree to homeschool?
No, you don't. I know in our state you do not have to have a bachelor's. I think there's some states that require a little bit more test proctoring and maybe a little bit more supervision if a parent doesn't have a bachelor's degree, but I think you can certainly go ahead and do it. I would say that every parent is qualified to homeschool, in my opinion. I don't think there's anyone more qualified to teach your kids than you.
Yeah. What if somebody runs into a problem where they don't know how to do the higher math? What would you suggest for them to do if they have never taken the higher maths?
I think there's some good resources out there. I think there's a lot of homeschool curriculums that offer resources, whether it's books or whether it's videos or whether it's tutorials. There's a wide variety out there, and I think as your kids will also sort of get a passion for learning, and they can catch a vision and say, you know what, to be successful in life, I really should apply myself to this, and I really should learn how to do an algebra problem. And I think that children also can support themselves in learning, and I think every parent probably knows somebody that they maybe could ask, somebody in your family or your church. You can say, you know, would you be willing to just spend 20 minutes, half an hour with my child and just give them a few pointers, because I've kind of come to the end of myself. But there's co-ops. I know in some bigger cities you can access homeschool co-ops where there's one parent that can offer some specific instruction to the group.
Thank you. All great answers. I appreciate both of you joining me on this interview. And I have a couple more questions. So if any of you, if kids ever need one of the parents, feel free to duck out. My daughter might join me for my baby. So my questions: how long have you been homeschooling? Have the kids been homeschooled from the start then for you?
Yes, they have. We started homeschooling right from the beginning with Caleb in school kindergarten, and now we're in second grade and starting Sarah in kindergarten.
Oh, that's great. That's so much fun. Does she like it?
Yes, she does. And Mary also, we have some little videos called Preschool Prep, and Mary is even starting school in that way, learning her letters and numbers on her little Preschool Prep DVDs.
Oh, that's so much fun. What curriculum do you use?
We use My Father's World. This is an example of a teacher's manual for My Father's World.
Oh, cool.
And they come in this, for each grade, they have different preschool options, and then kindergarten and first and second grade is what we've gotten so far. They have deluxe and basic sets, and I've really enjoyed it personally. It's the only one I've tried so far as a parent myself, and it's been very helpful. And then from second grade on, you have to bring in your own math, and we're using teaching textbooks math, and that is a really been a good one. It's on the online actually, or on it. They're phasing out the DVDs, but they do have it online.
Oh, that's great. I know there are a lot of different pieces that are included in that. Isn't the package? You suggest buying the biggest package or buying pieces individually?
If you can at all afford it, it really is nice to get the deluxe package, just because then you have the little extras. You don't even I haven't even ended up using all of them in every package, but most of them, and it's nice to have, just because it's included in the teacher's manual, and it's nice to have those in the kindergarten when there's these letters, which work so well. With it's like a puzzle, and then you also use it this blend ladder, and you can take the letters out, and you can practice your words that way with the blend ladder.
Oh, put it on top.
Just been
make the word.
Yep.
Cool.
Very handy for teaching Caleb to read. And then now Sarah. These really, I think, help tremendously. They're alphabet cards that you can use, and you say, like, you sing it to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but you go like apple. And anyways, it teaches them to recognize letters with their sounds, and that has been very helpful. And then
thanks for sharing.
Yes, and now in the these are the big projects this year. There's a United States map, and then
Could you tilt your phone to the side? I'm going to see if I can see that the long way. Well, your phone. Oh, there we go. Woohoo! Yeah, you're filling almost the whole screen now. Sweet.
Okay.
That's so cool. So those states, is he working on the different states?
Yep, and then it works really good as we study then very topically with this about the states and learn just a ton of stuff, and like for whatever the food is, sometimes they'll have a recipe for the food that's really that state might be known for, peaches or strawberries or whatever. Been good.
You get the peaches then if you studying peaches that week.
Yeah, they have a list in the teacher's manual what extra things around the house you might need that week that you can keep on hand. Yeah, that's
fun. Thank you for showing your things. I'll put a link down in the subscription box and for My Father's World, so that people can check it out if they want to. What do you hope for your children when they grow up? And we kind of touched upon that some, but
we just want them to follow the Lord, honor Him with their life, just find His purpose for them and find their spiritual gift that they have and use that for the Lord. That's kind of the overarching purpose. The details they can probably fill in later.
Right. What's a typical day look like for you when you're homeschooling?
Well, we're very, very flexible and laid back, but it's
nice about homeschooling.
That is actually, that's really a really wonderful part of homeschooling. We start out with breakfast, and during breakfast, I have my phone read us the Bible's chapter that we're working on to memorize. Lately, it's been Psalm 27. So then every morning at breakfast, we just listen to Psalm 27, and I think all three of them have it basically memorized now. Then we usually do math pretty quick in the day with Caleb, and that can take at least an hour. I really like things to go. I'd rather do a little bit where he comes away with understanding than just rush through a bunch and him not really get it at all. So we'll take our time on math, and it can be tricky having the what for the girls to do while we're doing that, because there's three little people with lots of needs and one mama, and so a lot of times I will let Mary watch her preschool prep DVDs, and Sarah will watch those with her, or Sarah will come and do school next to us, so I can kind of help her in between problems with Caleb. And it really pays off as he understands things more. He becomes a lot more independent in the time it takes initially to work into it. Ends up paying off a lot. We also have a DVD called Picture Proverbs, where you can have it on the TV and it reads you the proverb of the day, as it were. Since there's 31 proverbs, a lot of families will read whatever proverb corresponds to the day of the month. And so the Picture Proverbs DVD set is put out by Solve Family Problems by S.M. Davis. And anyways, it's a good DVD set, and we just watch it, and it has some pictures that might correspond to the verses, and in that way and do that. That's part of our routine. And then we sometimes do some exercises together and some project, and then come back down for more school in the afternoon, and before you know it, it's time for supper to preparation. Days fly by.
How long would you say that focused homeschool time would somebody need? So he's was in second grade, right? So how much homeschool time?
I think it really depends on the individual. The state requirement is 4 hours a day. It's always good to remember that, if you're being the teacher, you kind of decide what school is, and a lot of our program encourages activities and learning by doing. So we don't have a typical, what you might think of as a lot of sitting down class time. We keep that pretty short and sweet and do a lot of hands-on and together things and learning by the way and outside and things.
What kind of outside activities do you do during the winter, let's say? So now we live in a cold climate. What kind of activities do you like to do?
Daddy takes them sliding and shoveling and snowmobiling.
Oh, yeah.
Feeding the bunnies and different things like that.
What are your bunnies' names?
Yo-Yo and Thomas.
Oh. I pet your bunnies. They're very cute. My daughters love them.
Yeah.
So cute.
They have fun with them.
Do you have to be super crafty to be a homeschool mom?
No. Nope. It's you do not have to be super crafty at all. It's really just spending time with your children. They'll be gone before you know it. Everyone says you blink and they graduate, and I just think how that's kind of a really big part of why we homeschool is just the time influence. We get to be with them, and I know some days it gets to be a lot and you want to break, but most of the time it's just really sweet, and it's good to have the time together. I can't think how much faster it would go if you didn't have the school time together in a day. So
that's such a blessing. I remember when I was homeschooled in high school that I became a lot closer to my parents and my mom than I was before. And I don't know if that relationship would have grown that strong with them if I hadn't been homeschooled in high school.
Yeah, that's really something we're shooting for too, and just that's really valuable.
I met a homeschool girl today in Walmart, and she's very sweet. Came up to me and said, "Hey, what are your girls' names?" She came from a family of 10 kids, and lives by Rothsay. You might know them, but anyway, Rothsay, somewhere in the United States. No, we live in the Midwest. I usually just tell people we live in the Midwest, but yeah. So it's really a blessing that sweet demeanor seems to be passed on to kids when they homeschool. Not all the time, but if you're raising your kids up in the Word and loving God and stuff, it just can't help but be passed on. And also the good work ethic. Colleges usually really love homeschoolers. It seems like if you want to go to college, you don't have to. One person doesn't have to, but just kind of a nice perk, I guess, of it if he wants to go to college. Or get a job. If you're getting a job, you come out with a good work ethic being homeschooled, because you don't have a teacher like in the big school setting with a ruler slapping your hand on a desk. They don't do that in public school, but I mean is they don't have a teacher right there saying you got to do it now. That's your parents, and your parents will always love you. And so it's getting that motivation for pleasing God and just doing it because you want to work hard. Because so anyway, I think that's one thing for me switching over from public school to homeschooling was I knew my parents loved me, and so I had to and I was trying to impress always people at school, the teachers, and so moving to homeschooling was really helpful for me, learning that I'm doing it because I want to do it, and because God wants me to work hard, not because I'm trying to impress this particular teacher, which trying to impress man won't get you anywhere. And so learning have more internal motivation was a positive going to homeschooling.
Yep. Yeah. Good.
Looks like we have, and right, we're doing great. Is there anything else you can think of or anything that I missed? Like to share?
If you do get a chance to go to some homeschooling conventions, you certainly don't have to. My parents never did, but Micah, having not been homeschooled, wanted to learn out as much as he could about it, and he really encouraged us to go to homeschooling convention. I was like, oh, why do we need to do that? But it turns out I love them, and they're really helpful. And so if you can catch a homeschool convention, and they have online ones too, even there's one called Homeschool Summits, and they even have online vendor halls and things where you can look at different curriculums. There's so many curriculums out there. Don't get overwhelmed by the curriculum, and if one doesn't work for you and your family, don't be afraid to switch for both teacher style and for student style. Your learning capabilities, don't think that you have to stick with one just because you got it. I mean, it is an investment and you don't want to be switching all the time, but just there's so many out there that just find one that works well for you.
Thank you. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I've not been to conventions yet, but hopefully someday.
It's kind of a time investment. We usually get grandma and grandpa to watch them, and usually some driving because anywhere in the state. But it's been nice. They have speakers and they have vendor halls, and you can kind of look at things and get ideas, and it's been encouraging and nice.
Is there there's a national homeschool website, isn't there? Some sort?
There's state ones that have the state
websites? Okay.
Yep, and there's usually like networks within states, different various ones, Christian or just local even. They have all sorts of homeschool groups. I haven't been too much of the online searching of those, but it's they have all sorts of nice programs, even with colleges and things, different exercise programs and different speech therapy. They're very there's lots and lots of resources nowadays for homeschooling families.
Where would you suggest I find the requirements for my state? Where would I find those?
One thing we've done for, I guess, legal protection is we've joined a homeschool legal defense organization. It's just $10 a month, and we can call them and ask for help with different things. If we encounter a problem with a school administrator or a public school director, we can get legal counsel. If someone shows up on our doorstep, we can get on the phone with them and they'll talk us through how to handle a potentially dangerous situation legally. And they have lots of resources that tell you state by state what the requirements are and what you need to do to navigate those. That's been incredibly helpful to us.
Homeschool Legal Defense Association, is that what it is? Right?
HSLDA.
There's several of them out there. The one we've joined is called HSLDA, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association.
I think my parents were a part of that when I was homeschooled too. I think in Minnesota. I cut that out. Doesn't really matter. You know where I live now. No, just kidding. No. Yes, that was a good defense association. It's so different doing it this way, doing the whole interview like this, but it's really great. I hope that those who are watching it, I hope this is really helpful to anybody that's looking at homeschooling. Thank you for being my first interviewees. That's so much fun.
Yeah, so nice.
Yeah, you know, with you're talking about during the school day, have you ever encountered any issues with anything that you would need to have the Homeschool Defense Association?
We have not had an issue.
No.
I have a guy at work who's been a member of it for probably 15 years, and he's used it twice, and both times I think the legal defense contacted the school on his behalf, and it was resolved immediately. The school agreed with the counsel of the homeschool legal defense, and there was no trouble after that.
Where would you think people would need to have those services? Can you give some examples?
There's some cases where you may happen to be in a school district where there's an administrator that's kind of overseeing the paperwork for the homeschool families in that district, and that administrator may be kind of a troublemaker, or they may view a certain parent as not having the right requirements if their state has some stringent requirements. The school may, sometimes it's a matter of the school administrators not being vindictive, but just misunderstanding what the law actually says. And they may make an honest mistake and just ask you for something that you're not legally required to provide. And if it sounds suspicious, you can just contact the legal defense, and they will actually help the school to understand what the law says.
Thank you for the example. That's that's something to think about. I am not a member of them, but it might be, I think, something I probably should bring up with my husband. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, it's $10 a month.
Yeah, that's very affordable for legal fees compared to the hundreds of dollars or thousands that legal stuff, drawing up documents usually take. Yeah. I'm just checking the times, every time I'm looking away. See, all right, we're doing good. Let's see. I think that's all. So you're gonna continue through high school then? You want to continue? I know some people say, oh, when kids get to a certain age, they don't, they may do a different route. Is that your hopes to go all the way through high school?
I think our hope at this point is to go all the way through, and if a situation comes up, we'll revisit that. But I'm thinking that maybe what's right for our family will be to go all the way through.
Okay. What are your kids' personalities with the homeschooling, and what do they like to? What are their interests and what they gravitate towards?
Well, Caleb loves math. He's been it's been fun doing that with him. He's he enjoys it, and he's good at that. And Sarah loves animals, and she's incredibly good with art already too. I feel like that seems to be her focus area. And Mary's still only 3, but she's kind of an organizer and just loves to have things neat. She's not too attached to things. She's pretty cute. She's like, oh, I don't need this shirt. You can give this to little cousin. Whereas Caleb is more like me, like, oh no, we need to keep this. So it's they're hard workers, and they enjoy their classes, and it is fun to see their personalities as they grow.
Yeah. And maybe this has already been said, but it's good to consider your child's learning style and their personality. I've heard of some kids that really need worksheets to learn, and some kids need to build something with their hands to learn, and some kids need to hear it read to them or read it themselves. And also your teaching style too. If you're the parent doing the teaching, you can just pick a curriculum that is right for your teaching style. There's a lot of different ways to do it. If you want to put in a lot of the administrative work, if you're gifted that way, you can build a curriculum yourself just by buying little workbooks at a department store. I mean, you can do it really cheap that way if you want to do a lot of the building of your own curriculum, or you can just do a credit card payment and buy an entire package and have it delivered to your doorstep, so you don't have to do any prep. And there's anything in between that. There's some curriculums where you supply part of your own material and they give you an outline for it, and you're free to choose what works best for you, and you're free to switch at any time. There's no penalty other than the investment you've already made. And I know a lot of families that have done some switching based on what works for each child, and you're completely free to do that.
That's really good points. I heard somebody say once with they're worried about their child being behind or ahead or whichever, and or worried about being behind. And the person said, well, behind whom? Who are they behind? So that's really good points. Thank you so much. I think in this kindergarten, we're kind of adding things. I don't have a specific science for kindergarten. teaching them some of the basic concepts. Some of those standards can be found if you're looking at your state's, education dot whichever state, like Minnesota. I was using Minnesota standards to see what they need to learn. So for my daughter, I knew she needed to know by the end of the year how to tell time, and know what a dime is and how to add the dimes together type thing. So it's one thing to double check if somebody's wondering. I know some parents were even wondering, in the town I live in, are my kids, they're not sure if their kids was completing their second grade homework adequately, or if they were finishing out the second grade year adequately. And so they could even check up the standards to see, as they're homeschooling, have they mastered this and this, and just quick kind of check. So,
That's a good point.
yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at North Dakota standards, but I assume they're North Dakota somewhere. But I can always edit that out too if you guys want. So this is similar to Minnesota. But yeah, you two are such a sweet couple, and I really appreciate your friendship with me, Teresa.
Yeah, likewise, Rachel.
Whenever I get off the phone with you, I told Garrett the other day, it's like, Teresa's so much fun to talk to. She's so sweet. I'm so glad that God brought you in my life. So
likewise for you. I'm really thankful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for letting me interview you tonight. I appreciate it. You're my first interview.
Way to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being brave and coming on with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for asking us.
Yeah, I hope you guys have a good night and
You too.
A blessed time during this trying time during the quarantine time.
Thank you as well, and your family.
Oh, thank you.